Hi, this is Patty Hodge at Dr. Nurses Rock. And once again today we have a very special guest. Today's guest is Mindy Strich, and she is a healer here in Georgia. And I know that she knows her stuff because I visit her
Oh,
at her practice. And Mindy has a website with mindystrich.com where her biography is on there, stories of the major issues that she's overcome in life. And she is certified in IEM, which you'll have to tell me a little bit about that, Reiki and Healing Touch, and is an ICF life coach. So this lady has the credentials to talk about energy healing, lots of life experience, and recently experienced some grief. So I'm not sure if we'll go there today, but maybe because that's where we're just coming in this series that we finished in April. So welcome to you, Mindy.
so happy to be here and to see you again, Patty. Looking forward to this.
It's an honor to have you here. So, Mindy, you have on your website these big experiences that led you to become a healer. But recently, when we talked, you said this is coming at just the right time because you were going through some grief.
Hmm.
So, talk a little bit about that, and then we'll go wherever you want to.
Okay, sure. Things have shifted a little since the last we spoke, but still, it's an ongoing process, right?
Yeah.
Um, I've been going through some life transitions. I have to come up with a better term for this because it doesn't feel like a full circle moment. It feels like the opposite. It almost feels like, you know, when we say full circle moment, it's like things feel complete, right? But it what's been happening in my life feels kind of incomplete in a or complete in a strange way. What I mean by that is um th- and this also has to do with why I became a healer. It all started when my mom passed away on my 25th birthday. And I lived in New York then. And that was the beginning of a journey that led me not only to become a healer, but to move to Atlanta because it was at a time of my life. I was 25. I had just broken up with a man that I was dating for almost 5 years. All my friends were getting married and having babies and starting that chapter of their life. My mother died and I was breaking up with somebody, so I was going in a very different direction. And New York just didn't feel like home anymore. It just felt like grief and sadness. So when I was younger, I spent my summers in Atlanta because I had family here. And so I always remembered Atlanta as a very fun and joyful place to be. And I had an aunt and cousins that still lived here when my mom passed away. And I also had a cousin that I was very close to that I grew up with in New York who was moving to Atlanta.
Yeah.
So I moved to Atlanta and started my life here, or those chapters of my life. Fast forward 40 plus years, I am now the only one that is left. Everybody that I came that was my grounding, my safety, my family have all passed away, with the exception of that one cousin who I mentioned that I grew up with in New York. But because one of the people that passed away was his wife, he can't bear being here anymore. So he's moving to Florida. So I woke up and it was like, oh, and in addition to that, all my friends, again, the opposite of full circle moment, I guess. Back then, my friends were getting married and having babies. And now my friends are moving to be with their grandbabies. So the foundation
Yeah.
of the friend community, my tribe, as I call them, all, it was like, Patty, I woke up and like everything was gone. And so I realized that I felt the same way I felt when my mother died, just lost and like, what's
Yeah.
next?
Yeah.
Except now I don't have that place or that group of people that are calling and saying, come stay with us, come start your life over here. There is none of that. And so that's what has created a significant amount of the grief of just feeling lost and um, not knowing quite where I belong, and searching for that grounding and that security blanket, I guess.
Yeah, that's so big. And right there it demonstrates all the kinds of grief that people can experience that they might not even name as grief, which is something we really explored during that series that we just finished. You have had actual death, which of course causes grief, but then this loss of your tribe, your support system, that's major. And how did you move through that? Because it's a big thing, especially at our age, because it's hard to start over. It's hard to not know where the supports are, where the next steps might be. How do we do that?
Yeah, I think I'm still answering that, but I do have some answers for it because I do feel a lot better. But you're right. I mean, part of my resistance was, my age. It's like, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to recreate my life again.
Right.
I just recently got back from New York, and my brother and sister-in-law were saying, come move back to New York, stay with us until you find a place. And I'm like, it's it's so overwhelming to move to a new place. Even though I know New York, it hasn't been home for a long time. So it's like it's a heavy lift, physically and emotionally, and especially when you're alone. The one thing that I didn't mention because I'm pretty much okay with it, but it's also another grieving process for sure. I know you will agree with this,
Yeah,
is divorce.
absolutely.
I don't think divorce gets enough props when it
Absolutely.
comes to grief. It's like you feel for when you hear that somebody has lost a spouse, you feel as long as it takes for them to get over it. There's no deadline to
That's
that kind of grieving. But when you've been divorced, it's like, after a year or two, get on with it, move on with your life. And
no,
in some ways, I've got to say, I'm not comparing it. I don't mean to compare it right now, death to divorce. But in some ways, because I've experienced them both, um, I think divorce is harder in some ways because if you didn't want the divorce, and that's what it's been, I've been divorced twice.
okay.
So the first time I wanted it, that was easier. But when you don't want it, you've got to watch somebody that you love move on without you. And it brings up all kinds of questions about, was I not lovable? What's wrong with me? Am I going to be alone for the rest of my life? Yada, yada, yada. So, anyway, um, I do think that divorce doesn't get enough credit for the grieving process that one goes through when we're going through it. But it
Well,
is a death. It's a death.
it is a death. And bless you for saying that because you're absolutely right. And sometimes it is harder to still have that person that you love around. Death is a much more final goodbye in some cases. And, and all those questions do come up. All those insecurities get raised. Why wasn't I able to make this work? Why was I not good enough? Why wasn't, all of those questions. So,
How come he was able to move on and find somebody else and I'm still alone,
yeah, yeah. And if there's a lot of
That is
betrayal,
fearless.
if the
But
divorce
yeah,
is because of betrayal, that's another issue. You have to deal with all of that as well.
yeah, yeah. So I feel like that's a topic for another
Yeah.
podcast maybe, but I do feel like I've done a pretty good job with healing my divorce. As a matter of fact, in 2 weeks, my ex-husband and my stepkids and their significant others are all going on a family reunion trip to Maine together. So I feel like, we've all done a good job reinventing the dynamics there. And it was messy and bumpy. It's not linear, it's not a straight line, which leads back to your original question, is like, how do you get through the grieving? It's messy.
Yes.
It's messy. And I think the first part of it is to acknowledge and accept that you're feeling the grief. That, it's not like you have to tell everybody you meet in the grocery store your whole life story. But I also think that, at least for me, I feel like it's important to share with people that you feel safe with, your loved ones, that you're not okay,
Yes,
and
that's
that you need support. I think that's important. When it comes to me, I can't fake it till I make it. I've got to be real about it. And and how long does that take? I don't know, but I know it's part of the process, like to share, and to find people who can listen to you. We talked about this before we did the podcast. I was very honest with you, and I said I'd love to do a podcast with you on grief, but I've got to be honest with you. I'm grieving right now, and I don't know if this is what you want to bring to your listeners,
sure.
because I don't know that I have any wise advice. And you were so sweet, and we talked about presence, right? And just being present, to what you're feeling, and to have people there to be present for you. So whether it was, that brief conversation that we had, and all the other conversations that I've had with friends and family, all those things move the needle just a little bit, to take a little bit of the heaviness away, so you know that you're not alone, and it starts to feel lighter. Like, the heaviness that I felt in my heart every time somebody was there for me felt a little lighter. And then I think that's what gives the universe the space to move in,
Mm.
you know, that lightness, that space. It allows something to move in, and then these synchronicities start to happen. This is what's happened to me. A friend sent me a video on Carl Jung and the spiritual meaning of loneliness.
Mm.
And it struck me straight to my heart, but it also felt like something lifted. It felt like the universe was listening. I felt like I had a direct line. Um, I'll read you something, and maybe somebody can relate to this if they're lonely. This is the passage that really got to me. He said, if you find yourself in this stage right now, in the difficult and often isolating passage of learning to stand without the support of someone else's presence, understand that this is not abandonment. This is not proof that you are unworthy of care. It is simply the moment that the most important work of your interior life is asking you to begin.
Wonderful.
And what that almost gave me another reason to say, oh, this is why I'm going through this. Okay, there's growth here.
Perfect.
Sign me up,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's it. I think that loss is the thing that everyone experiences at some time or another in their life, at all different levels of whatever life brings. But it also is the one thing I think that makes us start to question, well, what is this life? What is happening in this life? And so there it is. And I just think that's a perfect passage that you shared with us. That's so thank you very much. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. It definitely did something for me.
Yeah.
Um, because like I said, I was so lost and I just couldn't figure out. I felt trapped. That was the word that I kept coming up with. I just didn't know how to get out of this place. It was like being in the woods, in the forest, and not knowing which way to go. And I was really trying. I was trying everything. I was talking to people, as I said. I was trying to, I was trying to figure out, do I need to move to a new community? But every time I would look at a place to move to, like a 55 and over community, to be with new friends and be with people in my same situation, everything I tried, it felt like doors were getting slammed in my face. And that just, kept pushing me back further into isolation. So it was sort of like I felt damned if I did and damned if I didn't. But then another thing that happened during this whole process was I realized that the movement needed to come from in here,
Yes.
not like I wrote this down too. Your inside has to match your outside. They have to be aligned. And I was doing it the opposite. I was trying to go outside, like maybe I should move to New York. Maybe I should move to a 55 and over community. Maybe I should, whatever, all these things. Maybe that'll make me feel better on the inside. But it's actually the other way around. I had to get my inside in alignment, my inside
Yep.
moving, and then the outside works itself out.
There you go. There you go.
That's it. That has been right now, for now, that has been the biggest lesson for me because let's face it, we're all going to go through difficult times again.
Yep.
And I hope, and I think that every time I go through something, there's growth and wisdom. Is it okay to say wisdom at this age, Patty?
Yes, it is. Even younger if you choose.
Do we have a little wisdom? I hope so. And so I think that the wisdom right now is the inside has to align with the outside, but you got
Yeah.
to get the inside in. So whether that's meditation or reading books, like those things that just resonate, like the passage I just read to you, those things happen a lot. Um, and that's what moves the outside.
Yeah.
That's what moves the outside, not thinking, how am I going to get out of this? You can't think your way through it.
No, and the only way out of it is through it. So you have to take the little steps, whatever it is that works for you. And of course, the thing we always advise here on our channel is go to your tribe. And we both use the word tribe. And
Yeah.
so, and the thing is, sometimes the tribe shifts around. People do move around and are experiencing different things and might not be available for you. You move on to the next person that is part of your circle and that holds you in some kind of loving way. And so,
It's the most unexpected person. They may not be the people in your
yeah,
tribe
yeah,
that gives you the answer. Sometimes it's finding, like in my case, I feel like I have my tribe, but I need to find another tribe too. Just
You need to add more people into the fold, maybe in a different
yeah,
way. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I mean, this is all wonderful, and I think it fits right into everything that we've been experiencing here over the past weeks of people's experiences, of the experts that have stepped in and talked about, the tools that they've used. And so you've talked about a couple of tools here just now, reading and finding a passage that works and being open to whatever is sent your way to help you in your healing process. And that can
And
come from anywhere. Yeah.
sorry,
It's okay.
being vulnerable, being vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think opening up is such a, a lot of people will say that they don't, they don't want to be a burden. So that they don't want to, they don't want to, you know, dump on other people
Yeah.
what they're feeling. And I get that. I understand that, but that's a story that they're creating. And I don't think that it helps anybody get over the pain and the loss and the grief to hide it and to suppress it. I think it just extends your grieving process
Yeah.
for a longer time than need be. You have to find some way to let it out.
Yes. And that is another thing that we're really advocating here is my take on this when we started was I never hear people talking about grief. I don't hear them using the word grief. Oh, we use other words in society, and a lot of times people don't want to say what they're going through, which is perfectly fine. It's not, as you said before, we don't have to say this to every stranger on the street, but we do have to acknowledge that everybody is dealing with something, whether we're aware of it or not. And we're carrying some level of grief about something, some trauma we've experienced, some loss we've experienced. Because I say every trauma contains loss and every loss contains some grief. And so we have to be more kind to one another, more compassionate, more empathic with each other, saying, okay, that person is going through something. I probably have something unhealed right at this moment. Let's just walk through this world a little more gently with one another. And, if we don't want to put the name grief on it, just pay attention to the fact that we're feeling feelings or we are enclosing ourselves because that's what happens in grief. Sometimes it's part of a chemical reaction that we have in our bodies that shuts us down for a little while. It gives us a little bit of brain fog because we're not sure where to go next. And it's part of that process of grief. So we've trying to normalize all of this throughout these few weeks of looking at this. Normalize it. People experience this, be aware of it, understand there are symptoms that go along with it, understand it's a process, understand it may take years, a lifetime to get through a serious loss. And sometimes it's cumulative. If you don't
Yeah.
heal the first loss, lots of other losses, and your health becomes jeopardized if you're not dealing with that. So, thank goodness for healers. Thank goodness you're here. I appreciate you. And I appreciate how brilliant you are with the way that you're describing everything that you've gone through.
No coincidence. I just left a client and I could tell when she came in to my office today that there was something off. She's one of these people that is like, so how are you? Like she distracts from her own stuff and is very empathetic and caring about other people. And I could tell she was a little off. And anyway, we did the session. And during the session, as I was doing some energy work around her heart, I felt something just move, and I was either looking down or my eyes were closed, but I felt the energy move, and as soon as I looked up, she was falling,
Yes. Yeah.
and you know we talked about all that, and she was like, she kept saying grief, grief as she was call, and I kept thinking, of course I was there and spent a good amount of time with her, and we wound up talking about it after. But after she left, I thought, how synchronistic, Patty, you called it in.
Mindy, I'm so happy that you came to visit us today. I want to switch gears just a little bit before we say goodbye.
Sure.
There's a couple of things. You are an author of a book for children.
Yes, it's so been so much fun. I wish I don't even have a copy of it here.
I'll find a copy. I will put it right in here in this
It's called
video.
The Rainbow Connection, and my friend Kathy and I wrote it, and we are having so much fun with it. My 7-year-old granddaughter was the inspiration to this book because I started teaching her about the chakras and the energy system when she was 3.5, 4 years old. And she was so interested and curious about it that I just decided to write a book. And my friend Kathy wanted to do it with me because she has a little grandson as well. So it's through this shock to teach kids about their emotions and their inner world and how much power they have inside of them to tap into their creativity and their confidence and their intuition and their voice. And so it's a sweet little story, um, uh, basically for 4 to 7 year olds. We're actually doing a book signing next Saturday
Oh, cool.
at Barnes and Noble in Alpharetta from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and it's available on Amazon. It's called The Rainbow Connection.
I love that, and it sounds like it's good for adults too. So I'll be there in Alpharetta to
You
see.
know, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Some of my pickleball friends who are sweet enough to support the book and buy it, that don't know really anything about energy work or Reiki or anything like that, have told me that they learned so much about it. Of a 75-year-old client who doesn't have any little kids around her, but she bought it and she was going to donate it to the library. She came in last week. She goes, I didn't donate it. I kept it. I'm learning a lot about the chakras. So it was never intended that adults would get anything out of it, but yeah, it's great.
You never know. You put it out there and the right people will get it. So
Absolutely.
that's how I feel about doing this work with you today, that the right people will hear this message and it will touch their hearts and they'll be healed in some way. And so I feel very, very blessed that you came to visit me.
It's
And
so good to see you.
I need you to come back. I need you to be part of our tribe here, part of our channel, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Oh, there's plenty.
So
Same, same.
I'm grateful to you. And I guess for right now, we'll say bye for now. Is that okay?
Of course,
Okay. And you'll be back.
I'll be back. We'll talk about joy next time
I
instead of
love that.
grief. It's just because that is what's the saying? Grief is joy turned inside out.
There you go.
It really is. It is all about love.
It is all about love. And I'm sending love to you.
Back at you, sweetheart.
Thank you. See
Good
you
to
soon.
see you. Take
Bye-bye.
care.